30, I wanted to be successful. Today, I want to be useful. It's not the number of people I handle, it's the number of people I'm able to impact. The gold medalist did well as an individual contributor, but we never promoted him.
Some professionals really tie their self-worth with the job titles.
That a family is actually not looking at your titles. I was vice president IBM and I felt very low. At dinner tables, I used to say, "What's my worth?"
So next, I would like to take this liberty to ask slightly uncomfortable questions.
Well, Divya, so far you asked comfortable questions, is it?
Okay.
Oh my God, I have to get prepared for it.
What one advice would you give to the husbands?
This is Ashok Pamidi. 4 decades across technology, leadership, education, and social impact. But the real story isn't how far he went. It's how success changed for him, from ambition to impact to purpose.
So we were discussing about Gen Z and their capabilities, and you would agree with me that Gen Z hold the future of corporates in their hands, yet organizations are struggling to understand this entire generation. So, what specific capabilities of Gen Z do you think the organizations are not able to leverage?
I think it's a very good question, Divya, because considering the fact which I think I told you, the numbers are very large, 377 million, right? So I think a couple of things we got to understand is Gen Z, right? First and foremost thing is that we got to understand that every generation will have their own, approach, a particular trait. For example, older generation believed in very high level of discipline, right? And they had a lot of stubbornness, right? Yet another generation may be very ambitious, for example, right? So every generation will have its own unique qualities in them. Though it's unfair to generalize, right? But the fact is that a larger population will mimic that particular behavior. Now, the Gen Z today population, if you look at it, they too have unique qualities, and that has to be harnessed. For example, a simple thing like learning, for example, right? They don't believe in the conventional classroom type of learning. They learn from YouTube, they learn from short bites, they learn from various other media. So this is one approach. So the conventional people is they will put them into a classroom and say you learn. By the time they will be actually doing, surfing the net or anything like that on their handheld devices. So you got to be cognizant of that fact. Second is they value, more than I would say slogans than clear purpose. For example, one may say that I am a equal opportunity company, right? I believe that we are a great place to work, for example. Now, a leader has to demonstrate by his action, walk the talk and talk the walk. Now, if you don't do it, Gen Z will say, sorry, it's not in my way of working. The third thing I would say is, you got to be very clear that they also value, as I told you, some people believe in high level of discipline and that, this and all. It's not that Gen Z is not indisciplined, please bear in mind. But they have their own purpose. And they don't believe that they have to, they look at outcomes. And we always talk about outcomes, outcomes, outcomes. They don't believe that, typically one has to come to office 9 to 5 every day. Why should I come? As long as I get my work done, I will do it in 3 hours' time. I will do it. Now, that is something which we have to take that into cognizant, right? If we don't do it, then we have a problem in hand, okay? So these are the third aspect. Now, if you look at it from the point of view of fourth aspects of it. Now, this is a generation which believes in pivoting, having multiple sorts of activities, right? It could be that, they may say that, today I will do some great coding, okay? And tomorrow they might say that I like to do mountaineering. Or they might do parallelly that they might be a great coder, but at the same time he may be a great content writer, right? So you got to recognize the fact that here is a a candidate who can do multiple things. According to me, it's a great assets, right? In the earlier days, we used to say, give them stretched assignments. Here is a candidates who are already ready with stretched assignments. So that's the other aspects. Next is, they don't believe in hierarchy. Now you give them and telling that, look, you join here as an executive, from next you will go to senior executive, you will go that, you will give them a big roadmap. They are not interested. It doesn't appeal to them at all, right? So you got to understand that in each and every area which I mentioned has got unique strengths and unique qualities which are there in the current context. So let me give you a beautiful example of what happened a couple of years ago when millennials were, in the picture in the industry. Right now, the Gen Z has come. Millennials are also there. So, have you watched this movie called Kung Fu Panda?
Yes, I have.
Great. Now, when you know that Kung Fu Panda was actually produced in India, in Bangalore.
Is it? No, that I didn't know.
Okay. So I'll tell you about the story, and you can understand where I'm coming from. Okay. So when Kung Fu Panda was produced, I believe, the CEO called all the people and said, look, I have this good project coming up, and I have to produce this Kung Fu Panda. So all those millennials in those days, young people, they said, sir, this is a Chinese village. If you recollect, Kung Fu was basically in a Chinese village. So will you give us permission to all of us will come as, dressed as Chinese people. We'll make this entire place where we are doing this studio as Chinese village. And we'll also serve Chinese food so that we transpose ourselves to China. Okay. And the managing director said, okay, go ahead. And that's where you had a world-class movie, Kung Fu Panda, coming in. And coming in from a millennials. So what I'm trying to say is, whatever you want to do what your employees want. They do that. I'm not saying no. They do something called as pulse survey. Now, please bear in mind, who is going to answer a pulse survey? Yeah? Right? Now, today's kids are not interested in getting into all the survey, and other things. They want instant gratification. If you want to do anything, do it now, then there. So I think that flexibility, what is required, go ahead and give them. It doesn't matter. Okay. The other aspect which is very important from the point of view is learning. You have to embed the learning into the workflows. You can't say that, I'll have a separate training room, separate L&D and all. No, everything has to get embedded in the workflow. Then they will learn fast. And please bear in mind, they are digital fluent. This is the only generation which is completely digital fluent. They can learn things very fast, right? And they've also not gone to college for 2 years. I should remember that. That means they have studied on their own. They have their plus points. Look at it that way. So they can learn. They're self-learners. So you got to harness that they are able to learn fast, okay? And third thing is they don't want hierarchy. They want outcome. So give them the one which they want to get, maximum output, and be very authentic. Authentic leaders have a great stay in the country, and they'll do very well. No false promises, no false slogans, nothing. You do what you're supposed to do, and they love to do it, and you take them as friends, they will do wonders for you, right? They will respect you for what you are, and you respect them for what they are. I think what is required is harnessing the power of the new Gen Z is what is required in our country, and we can become a formidable force, right? And you can see wonders. I'm already seeing startups, right? Yeah. Startups many of them are led by young people, may not be Gen Z, but they are the millennials. And the millennials have understood, much in a lower bracket of the millennials, they've understood how to manage them, and they do beautifully. And I think the older generations have to learn that very fast. And every generation will have its own peculiarities and everything. But the main thing is adapt yourself to what your workers want or your workforce wants. And I think you can see wonders coming in as we go forward with Gen Z.
Thank you so much for sharing so many insights. I think a lot of organizations, Gen X and millennial leaders can learn so much from what you just answered about Gen Z and change their way of working, make the organizations more adaptable, so that this entire generation feels comfortable and on purpose. Okay, thank you so much. Sir, a little while ago, we were having a conversation on India, how India can become a global superpower. And you mentioned that we need to harness the power of our diverse workforce in terms of the other gender that we have, which is women. I know this that even before the DEI term was coined formally, you believed in diversity. You had your teams balanced in terms of gender equality. What exactly was that belief system in you that made you imbibe this in your leadership style?
There are two things. One is a personal front, and other one is the real workforce. From the personal front, I would say that I was very fortunate that I was a son of a working mom. My mom was a headmistress of a school in Bangalore. And what is very interesting is she studied after giving birth to three children. We are three siblings, okay? And later on, she studied and she did well. I believe she got the first rank in that Montessori's training, etc. Now, what is very interesting is that clearly shows that my father, okay, was a person who believed in, really empowering women, and he also believed in gender parity because he himself was a fairly, he had a good position in Indian telephone industries. He was an
Okay.
So in spite of all these things, he didn't bother. He says, look, do what you want to do. And my mom wanted to study further and become a teacher. So he gave her all the, empowerment to do what she wanted to do. So that's very important. And we never felt that, our mom is working, anything like that. We were going to school. And our mom used to be there at home whenever we wanted. And she used to support us and do all the cooking, everything she used to do and then go to school. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is even my elder sister. She's a working mom. Okay, she's a chartered accountant by profession. So I was probably, and some of my aunts were also teachers. So cousins too, some of them from the maternal side, they were all working. So it clearly comes out that as a family, we were very liberal. See, I'm talking about my father was, if you're still alive, would have been almost 97, 98 years. My mom would have been 85. So way back then, right, they clearly clearly saw the power of gender equality, right? And that makes a difference to us because you are what you are is the upbringing you get. But having said that, I would say that my journey as far as balanced team was concerned, it started off long back when I was in TVS Electronics actually. While I didn't have women directly, but many of them were in the support functions, okay? Like service support and product managers and all, they were there. And I found that I remember distinctly, and I can give you that example. This girl, young girl, she was directly as a management trainee. She had joined from, that time they call it REC, right? Regional Engineering Colleges. And we had gone there to one of the calls in one of the public sectors. And in those days, we were, as sales leaders, we were also hands-on. We could rip open a personal computer desktop and then, assemble it back again if required. So we were giving a demo of a tape drive where we had to remove the tape, the PC, and then insert a cartridge tape drive. It's something called as a tape drive, which I'm not very sure the new generation will understand what is a tape drive, but there's something called where the data were all stored in tapes, basically. Okay. Now for that, we had to remove and put in the SMPS, we had to take the power. SMPS means switch mode power supply, which is the power which is giving to the computer. And while I was doing it, I suddenly saw that the power is not coming in. And that is where the product manager, that girl, young girl, she said that, look, oh yes, I'm seeing that it has to be done. She asked me what I should do. I said, the power is not coming. So maybe we'll have to call off the demo or we have to go to the next PC. But I don't think they have time because we have got only half an hour, 1 hour time to finish all this stuff. Then that's where that innovation and creativity, you may call frugal innovation, it doesn't matter. What she did is, usually women carry pins, right? Safety pins. So she saw that, the crimping was not all right. She used the safety pin, which she had, and then put that particular pin inside and then insert it and said, sir, we are ready to go. Now, that is what I call that thinking on the spot and ensuring that, your demo is not, cancelled or postponed, anything like that. I just loved it. Then later on, when we moved in, when I changed companies and when I joined digital, it became compact. I moved to Hyderabad as the branch manager or regional manager. There again, we had recruited young women, okay? But to be honest with you, they were not in sales. They're more of support functions, etc., etc. But what I found is that many of them have very unique qualities of innovation and creativity. And that made me think and saying that, okay, we got to have a balanced team of young people, older people, and not necessarily only engineers. Okay, so I took people who were selling, there was Venkateshwara hatcheries in those days, it's still there, in Hyderabad. So I took some people from there who were selling eggs actually, from IRMA background. People with chartered accountant. In fact, one of my ISV relationship manager was a lady from, as a chartered accountant and so on. So it was a diversity of thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay, which came in, and that's how it created a balance. Now, let me tell you the story. So it's a very interesting story. So then again, I never used to take a decision, everything on my own. And that's something which one has to learn is many a times as a leader, you may have to step back. Okay, and become an individual contributor, so to speak. The idea is to ask what they want. So it was this Shankaranti, that usually you do kite flying and other things, right?
Yes.
So this young girl, I remember, she said, sir, it's a Shankaranti, we should celebrate. I said, okay, what do you want to do? She said, so what do they do in Shankaranti? I said, look, generally in Gujarat and many places, they fly kites. She said, even in Hyderabad, we fly kites. Then, okay, you want us to go to kite flying? Then another girl was there. Sir, I have a brilliant idea. Now, this is what I want to tell you. At that time, it was compact. She said, sir, I will get hundreds of kites, all with a logo of compact. And we'll go to Hussain Sagar and fly kites. It will also have marketing and all of us will have fun.
How innovative is that?
Now, this has come from young girls in my team. Okay. Next, not only that, then I said, oh, look, how long you want to spend? They said, we'll spend time over 2 to 3 hours. Then this girl said, look, in Shankranti, we normally eat good food. But, sir, I thought we are all, privileged people. Let's buy a lot of pizzas. And in those days, next to the Hussain Sagar, the other side, the railway crossing, there were a lot of slums. Okay. She said, sir, I want to give pizzas to some of the slum kids on this day. I said, go ahead. So according to me, even now I remember, please understand, is way back in 2000. And even now I remember, because it's such a great thing that this girl's taught. One is it helped in marketing, because all over there were hundreds of kites, red, blue, green, all had compact brand there, flying kites. Then at the same time, we distributed pizzas to all those kids there. And then later on, we asked them to fly the kites. It's not that we flew the kites, they flew the kites. We saw them so happy, the slum boys and girls. So end of the day, it was a beautiful day, well spent, well articulated, I would say managed. And more than anything, it had a true purpose. The impact, what we wanted to create, it created. And all this is the power of diversity, right? The power of inclusion more than diversity is the power of inclusion, right? That made a difference. So that's where my journey started. And it went on, we had after I moved over as the director, I ensured, sometimes I had to do intentionality. What I mean by intentionality is, if I used to see that, that particular region doesn't have enough women in sales. Now, please understand, way back, women in sales were not heard of. Now it's very high. It's around 30%, 33%. In those days, it was very difficult. So we used to ensure that we have women in all the regions in sales. In fact, at that time, I had Bombay regional manager. She was a woman. I had in Calcutta, I had in Chennai, I had in Bangalore. Everywhere we had women, okay? And my ISV relationship manager, marketing, they were all women. So we ensured that, we have enough women, okay? So that we are a balanced team. And that's where the creativity and innovation happens you can't imagine, Divya, what's a kind of, because we never used to bother about our quarter numbers. In fact, one quarter numbers, I used to meet the previous quarter itself. Because it was so easy for us. And anyway, I think it was also a sunshine industry probably, 2000, 2002. Till 2007-8, I think we had a great time in just, meeting numbers like anything. Okay, many of them earned 125%, 140, 150, 200% incentives too. So that is the kind of business which happened, and it is all because of the power of inclusion. And without any hesitation, I can say it's the power of inclusion. And when I joined NASCOM, it was very interesting. At one point in time, I had only women working with me. So,
I think you bring out the best in them, is what I can hear from the story you are telling me. Because, the innovative mindset anyone can have. But if you do not feel supportive from the leadership team, then that innovation can die down very easily, sir. So I think you should also take a lot of credit and not be very modest about it. Your reckoning force has actually enabled a lot of innovation in your team.
So Divya, there's one small thing, if you say that, you got to recognize yourself and other things, not a question of modesty. It's a question of the fact that that person has given an idea, give them the due credit.
Absolutely.
Okay. And they are the people who will go out of the way to work for you.
Yeah.
Right. And people know in this new generation we were talking about in the previous question, you'll be surprised that I've had call at 11 o'clock in the night. Now you may ask, Arey, you are a guy, sir. How can you have a call at 11 o'clock in the night? Believe it or not, I've had calls at 11:30 in the night because it's a sales function.
Yeah.
It's driving numbers, right? But my people, many women, they used to say, sir, doesn't matter, sir. You are not going to simply call for telling that what happened in the day. You are very clear that you are going to help us win. So we are very open. Don't bother about it. Don't think that, our work stops at 7. Though I used to avoid it, but then, young people, I was also young, very ambitious, right? So I used to call them at 11:30 in the night. So talking about 11:30, I think you should know this story. Yeah. It's a very interesting thing which happened. Again, a woman. She was not a sales executive or anything like that. She was a sales coordinator.
Yeah.
And I remember her name also because I can't forget. Her name is Maleshwari. Okay. It was in the year 1999 in Hyderabad. So there was a big tender. It was AP Swan, that is called AP State Wide Area Network. And we were putting a bid. Unfortunately, all our pricing came in the evening.
Okay.
And we had to submit the tender next day morning. Now, this lady had a small baby. Okay. Now, she said, sir, you can't do it because the tender is huge. I said, no, the team will stay back. I called my home and said that I don't think I'll be able to come today. I'll have food. We have to work throughout the night because we have got the pricing details now. It's a big, massive tender. 3 huge volumes we have to make. So by the time we type it out and print it out, we have to give hard copies, right? So it will, and seal it and all, usual government tenders, right? It will take a lot of time and we have to submit by 8:30 or 9 in the morning. So my wife said, okay, please have food and all. I said, don't worry, we have my other colleagues also staying. So this lady said, sir, I cannot stay back. I'll have to go at 9 o'clock because I have a small baby. I have to feed him and all. I said, don't worry, you please go ahead. So at 9 o'clock, she went off. You'll be surprised. At 10:30, she was back. She said, sir, I've gone, I fed my baby and I've seen that all of you are working. I can't be staying back. I will work along with you people. And she worked throughout the night. Okay. And we submitted the bid in time and we won the order too. So what I'm trying to say is, this is the power when you empower them, right? I never said you stay back. I said, please go home. You have a small baby. Take care of them. So now what happens is she felt that way. And she said, how are you managing the baby? She said, no, sir, my husband said he'll manage it. Don't worry. No, it's also the power of, having good husbands probably. And that's what happened. Finally, we won. So I can't forget it. So I remember that lady's name.
Yeah.
Because that lady helped me win, just huge order. Yeah, some 25 crores, 30 crores. But that's what actually happened, right? So what I would like to say is empower women, give them the due respect. More thing is respect and understand their challenges. Then you can get the best from them.
Absolutely. And sir, these are some of your personal experiences, but in the Indian corporate landscape. So you coined Women Wizards Rule Tech. That was a very famous program that reskilled 10,000 women across 100 organizations. And it had a rippling outward effect on the entire corporate, because from there, the entire DEI journey started and other organizations also started taking targets. So do you remember any particular story of other organizations reaching out to you, or how did you feel at that time becoming a game changer in the DEI arena?
Okay. So I would say when I look back at Women Wizards Rule Tech, right, it was started around 2015 or something like that, I remember. Incidentally, it's also a case study in M.
It is.
So when we started that, what actually happened is, this is again a very good story, okay?
Yeah.
There was a lady called Padma Priya in Hyderabad, okay, in NASCOM. And we were doing all these Fridays, okay, where we used to have tech sessions. It was a common, general neutral tech session. And she told me that, we are only getting 10%, 15% women participating. Now that lady told me that when she did an exclusive women tech session, she saw about 100, 150 women coming in. So then that's one thing which struck me and said, wow, that means to say that if you do any program only for women, probably more women will come. So that's one aspect. So there are multiple things, okay? The second thing is that I had gone to UK twice, working with Milton Keynes University, UK, okay? For actually it was gender migration between India and UK, gender. So some of the data came out very clearly that whenever women migrate, they were the young girls. But when it came to men, it was the older men. Okay, so that's one thing. Then we started looking at what happened to the older women. They were all quitting. They were not in the tech roles at all. It was only the young women who were there in India in the tech roles. I'm talking about way back that time.
Okay.
So then we had a chat with number of other companies, Infosys, Wipro, all the companies, big companies we had. Many times CEOs, otherwise we were talking to D&I people or the CHRO, like that. Then we found out that the women, basically after some time, they were moving out and taking all the support functions. I call it all the R's. CSR, PR, okay?
Yeah.
All this HR, all those things. They were not in the core domain of coding, programming, though they were technical people.
Okay.
So that was the second big thing which made me think, hey, there is some opportunity because women are leaving and joining non-core activities when they are techie people.
Okay.
And third thing is we were about to enter the Industry 4.0, okay, in those days. Then we saw that all this cloud computing and all those things coming up. Then we saw that, oh, this cloud computing is coming. That means you say you can operate in any device wherever you want, in however you want, you can operate. Then we said that here is an opportunity to ensure that we do a program. So I won't say that it's really a reskilling, while it's supposed to be reskilling, but it is giving a women an approach of understanding to stay relevant in the new way of working, the digital technologies, the new future technologies of that time. Okay, there's AI and big data and cloud computing and cybersecurity and so on. So we thought that there's a great opportunity for women to stay relevant in the industry and help them navigate in the new future of work, which can change the way the work is being done. That was a concept which we had at that time. Please understand, it was a concept which was well thought of way, behind in, 10 years ago, right? 10 years ago or around that. This 2026, so 16, 17, we launched it. So it was a program, and the end of it, I would say that, it gives us a very satisfactory moment because it has a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And it's not that, impacted 10,000 women or 20,000 women. I think it's still going on. It's a fact those women have become leaders, many of them, because they're transformation. And they in turn have impacted, I'm sure, many women. And it's very interesting to see that many women may also have been impacting their families too, because a lot of women are breadwinners, right? They're the only breadwinners. So in that sense, like, it gives you a sense of, you're humbled actually. You're humbled because many of them you will not meet, but you have already made some impact for many of these women, right? And the concepts which we took is something the industry drove. I was just one small spoke or a thing in that. And the entire program was run actually by my colleague called Archana and other people, Nikita, Hasita, and all those people, all women. They were driving it. I just conceptualized this program. In fact, even Women Wizards Rule Tech, the name itself was coming by another woman.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she gave that. I remember Ranjana, she gave this name. She christened the name. So if you look at it, it was a program driven by women, for women, by women. And Ashok Pamidi just being a catalyst in this entire activity. That's it. I just helped them.
What a great catalyst you've been, because a W2RT program, it's very famous across the corporates and it made waves back then. And I think it laid down the foundation so strong that DEI initiatives are still going on at a greater pace. Okay, sir, since you were just mentioning about the future of work and you've been embedded deeply into the India's startup ecosystem, I just want you to give one advice to the emerging entrepreneurs of India.
So you see, please understand, when we talk about startup, there are three different things. One is ideation stage. Other one is somebody who's in the growth phase. and the third who's fully almost on the exit phase, right? There are three different types of startups, I would say, irrespective of what sector they are in.
Yeah.
So let me talk about the ideation stage, because that's where we require more and more startups, right, in the country. So I would say that, before they embark upon anything, right, the mantra today will say you become a startup, all those things. You be very clear, what's the problem you're sorting out? What is the real issue? Okay. And then go about coming out with a solution. So what people do is they get paranoid by telling, I am coming out with an agentic AI tool. For what? For what? Right? You be very clear. What's the problem? It may not require an AI itself, right?
Exactly.
So must be very clear, all right? And as technology is not the solution for all. Please understand. Technology is just an enabler. That is fundamentally what I would like to say. Irrespective of whatever technology you want to use. It could be robotics also. Whatever it is, it could be manufacturing, I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
So that's one advice I would like to give. Second thing from the point of view is, you come out with an MVP. Get it validated. Go ahead. I would say, in India, what I have observed, right? I have been mentoring a lot of startups, quote unquote, some of them in my LinkedIn, some of them are not in LinkedIn. Okay, please understand.
Yes.
So what I would like to say is that many of them are what I call them as tech nerds. Quite a lot of them. Very good, excellent. But then I tell the tech nerds, look, if you don't sell your first 1 million, 1.5 million, there's no use. Everybody has to go and sell. It's your product, your solution. You have given a solution to this. You have understood the solution. You have understood the pain points of a customer. You have to validate it and sell it. Okay. So that's first piece of advice. Every CEO has to go and first sell his own product. If he can't sell it, then nobody else can, because he knows it better. He or she knows it better. That's my first piece of advice. Second piece of advice I would say is, please choose your mentors. Very, very important. Reason is, they are like a lighthouse. They give you the directions. And they are the people who will say no. Because what happens, I have seen clearly in the last 5-6 years, I've been mentoring, that they get carried away. They come out with multiple products.
Yeah.
Okay. Without one product being successful, they launch the second, they launch the third, and so on. Now, that's a lighthouse by telling what is it that you're trying to achieve? What's the problem you're trying to sort out? Can you sort out so many issues?
Yeah.
Right? Because the pockets are not deep. Pockets are limited. Right? While the government is doing everything, right? In Startup India, even be it Karnataka, be it Telangana, be it Tamil Nadu, all the governments are doing some amazing job, right? They will fund, they will give some catalytic grant and other things, but the rest of it, you have to make it. You have to make it your business sustainable. You're not just burning money. So I would say that choose your mentors wisely. Very, very important. Okay. And finally, at the end of the day, you can scale your product, because a product developed from India is a product for the world. That is something I want to believe behind them. It's just not for India. It can be a product for the world, because the problems we face is no different than what Africa is facing, or Latin America is facing, or even US is facing. Right? In health tech, the whole health tech system has collapsed in European Union or in Canada also. They are looking at our own doctors and nurses, right? They'll be looking at healthcare solutions, what we give. So I think the opportunities are galore. It's huge. The only thing which you have to do is understand the ecosystem better, get your hands and feet wet, and get cracking. You will see the difference happening.
Wow, how wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing those insights with us. Okay, so sir, now I want to pull your attention and get some insights on the culture of the Indian workplaces, and typically, understand how your leadership style has been to, influence and impact the culture of an organization. So, tell us this, that if you had a magic wand in your hand, what is that one thing that you will change in the culture of the Indian workplaces?
See, we're talking about India becoming Viksit Bharat by 2047, right? And becoming a very large economy.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you can't become, the second largest economy in the world, okay, or the largest for that matter, if you want to achieve. You can't achieve unless you have an inclusive growth. You are leaving half your population behind, right? While female labor force participation has increased in India, right? I've seen that. But then if you look at it, 80 to 90% of them are in the unorganized sector, right? Where are they in the organized sector? And even in the organized sector, which I belong to, the ITES and BPM sector, right? It's basically probably, I call it as an island of paradise. It has probably 35-36%, right? Because they're all white-collared workers. Now, but still, we have not reached that 45-50%, because the fact is that you have so much of women, right? We are almost 48-50% men and women. So we are living behind. So, as mentioned that, there is an opportunity to increase our GDP, increase our thing like 700 to 770 billion can be contributed by women in case we have reached that gender equality. So we have to pull women, into the workforce and ensure that they retain in that workforce, right? Very, very important. So for which I would say that legislators has to come in, because you have right now the next election or something, you'll have women coming in the Lok Sabha, right? Same has to follow in the Lok Sabha, in our state governments and in Panchayat Raj, everywhere you should have, because we require good policies for them. It requires safe places for them, right? In India, we still see safety is becoming safe workplaces are not there. So we got to work. All this posh and other things is great, but it doesn't really work. We have to have a culture, and that culture has to change, right? The gender equality, societal gender equality has a direct bearing on organizational gender equality.
Absolutely.
And that is the biggest challenge we have. We have not reached there. We don't have gender equality. Maybe gender equality is there in pockets, but not totally. So that's one aspect. The second aspect which is there is when I talk about not only just gender with respect to women, we also have, the people from, the marginalized communities and rural areas, right? You have to ensure that they are enjoying the party. Which when we reach, the huge trillions of dollars and we become a very strong economy, right? That is something which we got to do. We have to work a lot more, not just the aspirational districts, which I know the government is putting a lot of efforts on aspirational district. But I see clearly that there are small villages. If I just travel 150 kilometers away from Bangalore, not take the highway, go away from the highway, I see a marked difference. I see a huge difference. People still don't have toilets. They don't have schools. I've been to some of the schools and all. While teachers are there, frankly speaking, government is doing something. The schools are there, but they don't get children there. Then why are they not getting? You go into the root cause. You find so many root causes coming in, right? So those are some of the things we need to address it. We got to ensure that we put a lot of focus more on education, focus on health. They were telling me that some of the places they have to walk 15 kilometers for the primary healthcare centers. Now that's too much. So we need to improve upon that. And then whatever we are talking about technology and other things, right? We got to ensure that they are truly becoming inclusive. And the good thing is that it can be done in the local language. And the startup ecosystem, if they are able to sort out one issue, right, in that particular place, wherever it is, that's a problem which they have sorted out not only for that particular village or a town, it's for the country. So that is where I think there's a huge opportunity which lies. And that can be done in local languages. It need not be in English. And that's what is a good thing which I'm seeing. Government is also putting a thrust on local language. I think we are there, but we need to move fast. At least I'm an impatient guy. I like to move fast. How long, we have to wait. And 2025 is about 15 years, 20 years now. We have to move fast. Otherwise, we have a huge population which will not have jobs. That is a danger part of it. Unemployment will go up an all-time high. So we have to create enough jobs. So more startups, more small and medium enterprises will have to come up. And just not in big cities, it has to come in small towns and cities. And we have to also look at vocational training. We don't require only graduates. We require all sorts of people to make a country prosper and strong, right? You take Germany, for example. It's a small and medium businesses which actually gives the economy in a big way in Germany. It's just not the Siemens and Bosch and Mercedes-Benz. It's a small and medium enterprises which are incidentally family run. And they don't take any funding. They are well sufficient. They're sustainable. And they're able to make a huge difference in that local communities and local villages. I think that is what we have to drive in a much bigger way than what we are doing. Then we'll see not only a powerful India, but a happy India also.
So Indian workplaces should actually, focus on inclusive growth. Okay. All right.
It's my mantra, ma'am. It's okay. So that's what I believe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, sir. All right. So, since I can see so much of an effective leadership style in the way you've managed people around yourself, what are the top three traits that you look forward to which are non negotiable for you while hiring? And that's irrespective of the generation that you're hiring for.
I think one of the key things I'll be looking for in any candidate when I hire, obviously, will be the first is the attitude. I'll be looking at the attitude in a big way, whether he's got the right attitude, right? And then look at it from that point of view of other things will come in his aptitude and all, but first is attitude. Okay. The second is his ability to unlearn and relearn. Because what happens is in college education, which is good, I'm not at all saying anything wrong with the college education, okay? Because all of us have studied in India and we have grown. So I have got great respect for the colleges, what they teach. But then there's a lot of unlearning also it has to happen. There's no choice, right? We are using technology and other things for learning. So that is the ability for continuous learning. I would like to say is continuous learning because he has to have that ability for whether he has that ability to manage that. And the third thing which I would look at anybody in joining the workforce is that whether he has that ability to reinvent himself. Okay. Because the world is moving in such a fast direction. What we are doing today may not be doing after 1 year or 2 years. Right. So I will be looking at that aspects. I don't want anybody having with a rigid mindset. Then we are in for trouble. So irrespective of what age, what gender, I'll be looking at these three qualities and that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing with us. So you had a wonderful and impactful life journey overall. So what are the topmost three biggest lessons that you've learned in this journey of life?
I think in journey of life, first is obviously reinventing myself.
Okay.
So I have reinvented myself a number of times. Some by choice, some by compulsion. Okay. Some by choice is my own choice, right? And so that is something which I think as the one big quality which I think is very, very important for anybody. Then the other aspect which I would say is that your one's ability to, at least I believe in, is the kind of, it's not just the growth of individual. How is the growth of your team? I would say that has been my biggest quality because when I look back and see, I know how many of them have already become CEOs, frankly, or how many of them are entrepreneurs. So I feel I get satisfied. That is, so it's just not me, right? Can you leave a legacy behind? And that is what I have learned at least. That is not what, you can be anything. It's not the thing, okay? And the third thing which I have always understood is whatever I do, I think I had a purpose. I think that is most important is that thing. So these are the thing, but the last one is what hits me always is think, have I left a legacy behind? I would ask any leader to ask this question. If not, then no use. You might become a CEO or any other thing. You might become a global CEO. But have you left a legacy behind? That is most important. If you're not doing it, then you're not a good leader, according to me.
Wow. Okay. All right. So next, I would like to take this liberty to ask slightly uncomfortable questions. So I want to understand.
Divya, so far you asked comfortable questions, is it?
Okay.
Oh my God, then I have to get prepared for it.
So do you have any unfulfilled desires in life?
See, one is, at any point in time, anybody will have desires. Let's face it, right? But the question of unfulfilled is where you do a introspection. Then you set your priorities. And based on that, you will clearly see whether your goalpost can change or not. Simple things, for example, I'll say that I want to do XYZ, for example, right? I want to read that book, for example. I want to read a book a week. Okay, that's my desire. It may not happen that you may be able to read. So you change your goalpost and saying it's okay, I want it 2 weeks. It doesn't matter. So that's not unfulfilled. Your goalpost has changed, right? Because any unfilled desire can cause a lot of emotions. And that's very dangerous. So one has to be very clear. You have to clearly put You have to do an introspection and saying, what are my unfulfilled desires? Write it down. It's nothing like writing down. And by the way, it's one of them was always books. I have never been able to complete one book a week. So I have now reconciled to the fact that I will download the Kinder, summary and read that. So I'm happy about doing that because I have clearly now touching 52 books a year. Okay, just want to give you an idea. But I do read full books maybe once in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right? So that's what it is. So I've changed my goalpost. I've realized that is impossible due to various reasons. So whatever or you want to do right now, for example, I put on weight. I want to reduce. I can't say I want to reduce 10 kilograms. It's impossible. I may say, let me reduce only 500 kilograms per month. That's an easy target, right? Something like that. So that's what I have to say. So in the professional life also, whatever be your thing, like you want to learn about cloud, you want to learn about, any other technologies, clearly say that I will earmark 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day. You'll see the difference. You would have clearly achieved. And 1% improvement in a day is huge. Okay, you would have, because in 1% a day is 365% there. Okay, so even if you do 1% per week also is okay. It's 52% improvement. Are you getting me? So that is what I would say is put targets which are realistic. So your unfulfilled desire can be fulfilled.
Okay, all right. Okay. So even with this philosophy that you've just shared with us, do you still have any regrets in life?
Probably that's where age comes into the picture, Divya, right? So what happens typically as we grow forwards, right? It's not that the regrets are not there. Basically, you look at your so-called regrets or whatever it is and change into an activity what is imbibed into you, right? You accept them and move forward. You can't change.
What has happened has happened.
What has happened has happened. So you move on. So I would say that no point in having regrets. No point in crying over spilt milk. Milk is split. You can't do anything. So that is where it is. And probably, I have to admit it. As we age further, and that's where experience helps you, you understand that there's no point in regretting. You've got to move forward. Life is, please understand, 60 is the new 30, right?
Yeah.
So all of us are very young.
Yeah,
so we look at it life in a very different way than what we were doing at 30. So we don't believe in regrets, unfulfilled desire. Nah, all these things are all not in our dictionary anymore.
Nice. How wonderful. Sir, one more question on your family life. You have 2 kids. You have raised them well. So I want to ask you from the perspective of young parents who are raising their children in this changing world, what one advice would you give to these young parents?
So, Divya, first is I have not raised them well. It's my wife has also raised them well. Please understand, right? She's the first teacher. Always a woman is the first teacher. So I have to acknowledge that she was a big pillar. Because I was in sales. I used to travel 15 days, 20 days a month. But one thing I did, and this one thing which I wanted to share this. I used to ensure that come what may on Friday evening, I used to be back. So Saturdays and Sundays, I was always with my family. Okay, so I used to spend time with my children.
So you created that rhythm. Yeah.
Okay, and that's where the whole thing, it is come what may, get back.
On Friday evening, home.
Friday evening at home. Okay, whatever be the time, get back. So Saturday, Sunday, you are able to spend time with your family, with my 2 children. So one thing which, that in the process, you help them grow, you watch them grow, right? You help them. In fact, I remember having taught maths and physics and Sanskrit to my son in 10th standard. He was not doing well. So I used to carry all his textbooks, one more copy I kept, and I used to read in airports and in flights. The physics, the chemistries and maths. I used to read it because, we had completed long back. So the idea is, help them learn, help them, do well in their studies. And that's what I did, at least in 10th standard. And you lay the foundation. So I would say that, they are doing well because one major thing which I thought I should share with you is while they are in IT, they also have other, they can look forward to another careers if they want. My son is a writer. Okay, he's published his book which has gone into Amazon and Barnes and Noble. It's a book of poem. But he plans to write, various other things shortly, which he has already, on the way to do it. While he's a professional, he also wants to get into AI and other things. He did well in his studies. He was in the Dean's Merit List from Southampton University, etc., etc. He's done well. But what is very important is, this is what I would like to say is, everybody talks about a T curve.
Yeah.
Okay, that is, you have a depth in one thing and then look at broad-based. I would like to go further and say have a pie.
Oh.
What do you mean by pie? Have competency in 2 areas, just not one. So that is the way of the world, I would say, and this is an advice I would like to give to all the parents. Allow your child to do what he wants to do. The world is big. It's not that, in our days, we had no choice. We had to do engineering because...
One skill.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had to do engineering because that was the only thing which was there, right? Or a medicine or anything. I'm talking about when we studied, right, in the 80s. But now the children have got a lot of choice. Give them the choice what they want. And allow them to have multiple careers. In the sense, multiple competency. When I mean careers, I mean multiple competency. For example, my daughter also, she's a jewelry designer. And she's in IT. Okay, she's already taken a stretch assignment in marketing, though she's a technical writer.
Wow.
So she wants to pivot, and I love it, what she's planning to do. So she has jewelry designing at one end. She is already very competent jewelry designer, plus this. So, what I am trying to say is that they have beautiful careers ahead. The
Build
choice is theirs.
portfolio of skills.
Portfolio of skills. And you got to build portfolio. Now, when you build portfolio, you're the most wanted, because today's way of working is cognitive. So it's no more, they call it left brain, right brain, right? Yeah. So you think about it, all these people who have this artistic bent of mind, they say that they have the right brain very strong,
yes,
right? And the people who are the techie type of people have the left brain very strong. So you imagine that you have both the brains, left and right. You become a very formidable asset to anybody and for yourself too. And I think that is what I would like to say is, harness the power of whatever they have. They could be in sports, they can be in arts, they can be in anything. It doesn't matter. Today, world gives a beautiful opportunity for all of them. Allow them to grow the way they want to grow, and the whole world is with them.
How wonderful. So, sir, let me just summarize your answer. So, first thing is that set up a rhythm with them, with your presence, spend quality time with them, and allow them to build a portfolio of skills. Okay. Thank you. The parents would be very happy to to hear these insights from you, sir. Okay, sir, these were the advices for the parents. What one advice would you give to the husbands?
So, Divya, one thing which I was looking at it, when I see some data points, I think it was in Hindu or some paper, they said that Indian men spend about 83 to 85 minutes against women spending something around 330, 385 minutes for domestic chores. So one advice I would like to give husband is, please get yourself domesticated. Because the faster you do that, you will find the world to be equitable, and your wives also are able to really contribute to the economy or to your families, right? Whatever. Again, I'm not insisting that all the women should work, right? In whatever they do, it doesn't matter. Like my wife doesn't work. She had worked, but now she's a homemaker. She's very happy.
Yep.
But whatever little bit you want to work, you work, right? You do little bit. So this is one area which I see, it's very patriarchal, right? The minute you start, helping your mother, your wife, your sister, whatever it is, you'll see a whole world opening out for you, because every activity what you do, sometimes, it not only helps them, it also helps you, because you'll understand what it is all about, right? Unless you make your hand and feet wet in that area, you can't. And it also gives them free time for having me time. It's important for women to get that me time, right? And they're always juggling around, if they're especially working, they're juggling around between work, looking at their families, that is children, some elderly care, right? Everything falls on them. So I think it's very, very important, okay, for men in India to really give a helping hand to their spouse.
Wow, how wonderful. Thank you so much. All the husbands better take a note of these advices. When a manager says, "We are family," do you think it is a sign of an unhealthy work culture?
Well, actually, I would say to some extent, I wouldn't say it's unhealthy. It is not a thing where you can call it as a family, because whenever you look at family, it is unconditional. Organizations are conditional. right? So that is a major difference. One has to understand that very thoroughly. While leaders do have that habit of saying we are a family, and what they probably imply by that, by telling that, the employees can feel belonging is there, a very higher level of belonging is there, and that, we are giving a lot of empowerment and making you feel at home, quote unquote. Okay, that is the meaning. But according to me, it doesn't work that way, as I told you, right? So I think what leaders should look at it is trying to see that whether a people feel very empowered in the organization, whether it's trustworthy as a leader. Please understand, very important, the culture of openness, culture of recognition, culture of belonging has to come in, right? And most important aspect is from the point of view of quoting conditionality is there, right? There are clear set of KRAs and KPIs which an organization has to follow from from employees as well as from the manager. So I think that is what is important from the point of view of a leader, and making such big statements is actually quite hazardous and not called for, because you're setting a different expectations, right? And I have seen, at least when people talk about it by telling we're a family, then leaders are expect no questions from the employees. They expect them to work late. Yeah. They expect them to do what they tell them to do. They expect them to just follow the rules of the book, and say you're a family. It doesn't work. It does not work at all.
So, definitely, it's a sign of an unhealthy work culture where the manager is rather manipulating the team emotionally. So, teamwork is teamwork, family is family. Thank you, sir, for saying that. And my last question to you is that what are your top three books that have shaped you as a leader and a human being?
I think, Divya, which I mentioned to you that, of late I've been reading Kindle and other things, right? So obviously I do follow the latest books, right? In the olden days we had the C.K. Prahalad, or even now he's a great thing, right? All those books are there. And when I did my marketing, there's one book, right? Philip Kotler, all those things are there. So I'm not saying that they are not great, but they are absolutely great. They are wonderful.
Yes.
And I would say that people in marketing, if you don't read, then Philip Kotler, then you're no marketing person, frankly. I think you have read that book. That's why
I
you
have at IM Ahmedabad.
Yes, yeah. So that is the Bible for marketing. But having said that, what is it that influenced my leadership and the way I work and other things? You'll be surprised. It's literature. The top books which comes to my mind, and probably it's because I read that books in the very young age, is Gone with the Wind. Okay. And Thomas Hardy's Mayor of Casterbridge. Okay. Now, why is it that I like, the Gone with the Wind, Margaret Mitchell, is Scarlett O'Hara. Okay. See, that book and a movie also, by the way, it was a movie, was taken at the time of American Civil War. And a lot of resilience had to come in. And this is what actually that book taught me. And I was young. Please understand, anything which you read at a young age has a direct bearing on your mind, right? And that really taught me about resilience. Not any other time. It's the book which taught me at that time. Then setting priorities. See, she had a choice of getting married to Rex Butler, right? A very terrific character there. And Ashley. She chose Rex Butler. The priority was very clear. So those are some of the things which I learned. Then, Mayor of Casterbridge, Thomas Hardy, is very old. It is in, I think, 1800 and odd it was written. These are all very old literature. And the thing which I would gather from there is many actions which are impulsive in nature, right? Basically, it's an impulsive decision which he takes. And then later on, he becomes a mayor, by the way. But what happens is that those impulsive behavior will set you for understanding your leadership, for understanding how exactly one has to look at it, how to deal with people, how to handle crisis. These are all the things you get from reading some literature. Now, when I'm talking about literature, please bear in mind, I read English literature. It could be Kannada literature. It could be Hindi. It could be Oriya. It doesn't matter. I would say literature will give you the best lessons in leadership, in marketing and people management. No other book can give you, frankly speaking. Okay. And the last book, which I think because I am reading now, and this is the second time I'm reading, is something where I found it is huge voluminous, is our own Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not Bhagavad Gita, it's Srimad Bhagavatam. It's again written by Ved Vyasa. There are a number of stories. The first time I read it as a story. It's beautiful. I also heard it in various, YouTube and other things you get, and it's really nice. But then I tried to translate into management theory, and each story has a management theory behind it. I'll tell you one, and there are many. Please understand, Srimad Bhagavatam is a huge voluminous stuff. It's written in Sanskrit. Okay, ideally, that's why I said read it in your local language.
Yeah.
Because the best understanding of it you can, even if you don't understand Sanskrit, it's okay. At least from your local language you can get. English may not, frankly. But I would like to say that, when we spoke a lot about mentoring, right? And people have to reach out to mentors, I said. And this is where I read, there is something, in South India, or maybe even in North India, I don't know. There's usually a photo of an elephant and a crocodile. Elephant and a crocodile, and Lord Vishnu coming in his Garuda with a chakra. Have you seen that photo? Yes. That is what we call it as Gajendra Moksha. Okay. Now, this Gajendra is basically that elephant, right? And he gets caught by the crocodile, and the crocodile goes on sucking the blood of the elephant. Elephant is not able to escape the clutches of the crocodile. Finally, he decides it's not impossible for me to fight, even though the mighty elephant, a small crocodile, he is not able to do anything. Then he prays to Lord Vishnu. Vishnu comes in Garuda and cuts off with this, Sudarshan Chakra, he cuts off the thing. Of course, the story goes beyond that, like what is crocodile, forget about that. What I would like to say is, how many leaders or how many people call on their mentors for help? That's what I learned. If in any doubt, if you are in crisis, go ahead and seek help. This is what I learned. Now, there are many stories, okay, frankly speaking, in that I'm just giving you one example which struck me because I remember the photo as a young kid. So all these books and other things are one which has impact as you as a kid. And I would say that one of the clear things is for parents especially, allow your children to read as many books as possible. Today, unfortunately, people are not reading, right? And you go to any bookstore, it's always empty. So, or maybe they're all very busy in Kindle, I don't know. But I think there's attention span is gone. And these books are voluminous, obviously. But I think we have to get the reading habit back, because this is where it makes you a very strong personality, a great leader, and more than anything, a great human being itself.
100% agree. 100%. Sir, I think today's generation also need to develop a lot of patience to be able to read the book till the end. That is something also missing in this generation, I would say. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I would like to now conclude this conversation. Thank you so much for coming on Leaders Unscripted. I had an amazing time. Thank you so much for the engaging conversation.
Thank you, Diva. Even I had, because, it made me think back, and, quite a lot of stuff which came to my mind, was something which happened, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years ago. But it was fun talking to you. And thank you very much for having invited me to this Leaders Unscripted conversation.